I'm going to close Active Shade and zoom out to see more of the pattern, and then return to Active Shade or make another test render. I'd like to perceive more variation in the plank pattern, so I'll increase the fade variance to 0.5. Now we're getting more variation, but I have to say that the overall material is too saturated with color. That's coming from the bitmap. The tiles map is fine, it's just giving us this plank grid. To tone down the bitmap, notice that you don't have an amount spinner here. You can either use it or not. So we're going to have to go into the bitmap level, and to tone it down, use the output rollout at the very bottom. Turn the output amount down. I'll set it at 0.7. And this will decrease the influence of this nested bitmap. And it will make the overall material less saturated. And I'd say that's an improvement. Let's look at the navigator so that you can see the structure that we've developed so far. Let's go to the top level and think about other mapping components. Open the Maps rollout, and you may have wondered what these other components are for. We haven't discussed them. We've talked about a few of them specifically, like opacity, reflection and refraction, and displacement. But it's possible to map these other components as well. And typically what you would do there is duplicate the map that you have in the diffuse color component. I'll drag this tiles map into the specular color component and instance it there. Notice the navigator has been updated with the same nested structure that we've developed. Do a test render and see if you like it. Basically what we're saying here is that we want the shiny areas of the material to be identified by the map. Wherever the map is brighter, you'll see more shininess. And this is generally a reasonable assumption. I'll also drag this into specular level and glossiness. Notice up here that we have M's in all of these components. Therefore, the numbers that you put in here are completely irrelevant. They don't change the look of the material. It's being mapped. If you wanted there to be a hybrid between the numbers you put in here and the map, you would decrease the amount to something less than 100%. And then it would be more of a blend between the map and these values. But in this case, I'll just leave these at 0. It doesn't matter. So this is a common technique, just to map the specularity with the diffuse color map. Now let's think about reflection. To get a fast reflection, you can use the flat mirror map. To get a more accurate reflection that fades over distance, use the ray trace map. And that's what I think I'll do here. I'll map the reflection component with the ray trace map. And this takes additional processing time to calculate. I'll use reflection mode specifically, and I will also attenuate it using exponential falloff type so that the reflection fades into the floor. This is more realistic. I want that to fade a little bit more quickly, so I'll decrease the end range to 50. and that looks much better. However, we have far too much reflection. I'll go back to the parent and turn down the reflection amount to 10%. Now we're seeing some subtle reflection here in the floor, indicating that it's a polished surface. Now, to simulate the bump map, you can simply instance the tiles map, and you will get surface relief. And if you want to increase the amount here, you can just boost this value. Or you can use an output map. I'll show you how that works. I'll go in here to this tiles map in the bump component, and then replace the map with an output map. I'll keep this map as a submap. So essentially what that does is it nests the map within output. And then you can use the controls in output to influence what's happening with this instance map tree. I'll increase the bump amount to 1.5. And this will accentuate the sense of surface relief that's happening, giving us more grain to the wood and more depression in the grout lines. I might want to take a look at that more close up to see if I've gone too far. I'll zoom in and do another test render. No, I'd say it looks okay. If I want to turn it down, I can do it here or here. So hopefully that's given you food for thought in how you can design a complex material. In general, I begin with a diffuse color component and get it looking exactly how I want, and then I'll just go ahead and instance that into different components. It's worthwhile to experiment with that, and perhaps I don't need all of these components. What if I don't use specular color? Will that make much of a difference? I'll uncheck it. And you can see that there is a subtle difference when I map that component. It makes it more saturated. Perhaps I won't use it. So go ahead and experiment in this way when you're designing a complex material. It's really more of an art than a science, and it requires a lot of experimentation to get it right.